how'd you get into the art department and filming and television?
It's interesting. I initially wanted to be an architect. From age of 6, I wanted to be an architect. I think from watching Brady Bunch or something like that. Studied architecture in high school and worked at an architecture firm. Went to school for it, but I went to University of Southern California. And while I was there, big cinema school. So, I had classmates that were like, come design the set for my show, come. And I worked in the theater department, and that brought me to New York, studied it in New York, and, have never left, basically. Love it, love it, love it. I love designing spaces for people, but when I got to college and learned that filmmaking was about designing, filmmaking and theater in particular, were about designing spaces for people that tell a story, that was much more interesting to me.
Oh, that's great to hear. It's like that's like you're like one of the unsung heroes, because people don't realize how much it goes to make it seem a smooth transition, not only in the movies and television, but just for going to the next scene, to the next set and design. And that's awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. I always wondered, like, is it hard to work on design for TV shows or for movies?
Is it hard?
Which would be harder?
I don't know. I don't have the answer for what's harder, but I think no matter what, hopefully you're in a job. Well, I'll back up. When I was in school, I had a professor that said there's 3 reasons why you take a job. You take a job, A, because it's a project that you always wanted to work on. It's Romeo and Juliet. I've always wanted to do Romeo and Juliet, whatever it is, right? Or it's collaborators that you want to work with, meaning this director, this writer, this lighting designer or costume designer, like people that you love working with, or you desire to work with, you desire to tell that story. And the 3rd reason is because you're going to make a lot of money. He said, realistically, I mean, it's a joke, but it's good to learn as a student. He said there has to be 2 out of 3 to take the job, and it's always better if there's 3 out of 3. So, to me, I'm not going to necessarily break down the difference between film and theater as what's harder and what's not, but it's more about, I love being able to tell a story with people that I want to tell stories. So the idea to collaborate with that amazing DP and that wonderful director, that amazing writer that I didn't have the ability to work with previously, or I have, and they're just wonderful at telling the story. That's, to me, what I'm desiring. Like, that's the desire of my process, is to get to telling that story with other people that make it interesting.
Awesome. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. And then you have your hands to pick who you want to work with, not only from the writing and director and producers. That's pretty awesome. Do you have a choice of which directors you and producers and writers you want to work with, or do they reach out to you and they're like, "Hey, Toni, we want you on to create our vision"?
So I mean, generally speaking, the written word always comes first. So you'll have the writers, the showrunners, or that create the script, and I will get a call, or my agent in particular will get a call to come in and interview. And I gotta say, when I was on Archive 81, or excuse me, before I was on Archive 81, I heard about this project, had never listened to the podcast, listened to the first 3 episodes of the podcast, was so intrigued by what I was hearing. And then, after my NDA was signed, got the first script and read it and could not put it down and could not wait. Like what I read was amazing. And, when I finally got to meet Rebecca Sonnenschein, the showrunner, I literally said, I know I'm only interviewing, but I just can't wait to find out what happens next.
That's awesome. What can you tell us a little bit about Archive 81?
What do you want to know?
Tell us
it's out now, so I don't have to worry about spoilers, but.
Oh, well, give us a little glimpse of what is Archive 81.
Okay. So Archive 81 is it's based off of a podcast, and it's an auditory podcast. It's about an archivist, Dan Turner, who works at who here in New York City in present day works at the Museum of Moving Image, and he archives tapes, videotapes, films, cassette tapes, anything analog. He is also a film buff. We learn at some point that he went to NYU to study film. His best friend, Mark, is a podcaster, has a podcast and is into mysteries and is also a film buff. And the two of them, love telling stories. But at some point he gets propositioned to basically restore footage, but outside of his job. And when he restores it, it's really intriguing because it's some footage of somebody that he doesn't know that apparently died in a fire in New York City in the Lower East Side in 1994. And so he's intrigued. Some things happen and he wants to find out more. He then gets offered the job to go and archive the entire film collection. But the trick is, it's upstate in the Catskills, in a secluded facility, hence supernatural horror, right? That's in a secluded facility that has no Wi-Fi. So, so what was intriguing for me was, as a designer, I got the opportunity to design Dan's world in present day New York, and design a compound that was in the woods, supposed to be 3 hours north of New York City. And it's, as our story is told, he goes from, the basement and through the walls, through the closet and back through here and down some stairs. And he goes all throughout this entire space. And we got to design and build all of it. It was wonderful, wonderful to explore, a wonderful world to build. At the same time, we're building present day New York, present day Catskills. We're also building 1994. So our young lady that he's archiving the tapes of is Melody Pendress, who is a anthropology student at NYU, PhD student, and she is going to the Visser to do an anthropological study. So she says initially. And this building is an intriguing building of many different cultures, and it's similar to Lower East Side in the time in 1994, and a lot of things ensue, and some supernatural things ensue. But what's important is, as you're going through the building, or going in the lobby, or going up the stairs, or walking through the hallways, you might turn down a hallway and find yourself in a completely different dimension.
Wow. Ooh, that's on my list to watch now. That's awesome to hear, and creating all those different scenes. Like, it's very specific that you're saying that you had created. So it must have been a lot of work.
I was not small, but it was amazing. But we had, I think we had about 13 or 14 sets that we built on the soundstage. And we shot for quite a bit of time, but it was awesome. It was wonderful. It was wonderful to develop the world that was in Rebecca Sonnenscheid's, the showrunner's head, to work with some amazing collaborators, everybody, the art directors, the construction coordinator, my set decorator was a woman by the name of Becky Brown, that just helped me develop these worlds and create 1994 and present day, as well as some other time periods that, as you go along in the story, that are showcased. So it's really intriguing, and it's beautiful. And it was, for a designer standpoint, it's not only present day, it's period, and it's in multiple different periods, but it's also just developing a story so that you, as a watcher, are intrigued and maybe scared. Part of that is because you feel like it could be real. Like, these are real places. They're not places that didn't exist, or that can't exist, or that we didn't walk past, or we did not breathe or be in those spaces. as a designer, developing those worlds is what hopefully helps to tell it and make you as scared as I was reading the story, reading the script.
Well, that's great to hear. It's like taking a step back into time, for the year 1994 and bringing all those elements out. That's really cool. As a 90s kid, I'm like, oh, I'm very intrigued now because I want to see what was brought back and how is that utilized in that year.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put the link for the show in the description so our fans could check it out. The first season's already out on Netflix.
First season came out January 14th. There's 8 episodes. We had 4 wonderful directors, Becca Thomas, Haifa Al-Mansour. And then if you're a fan of horror, we had the other 2 directors are Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who are famous for doing some really indie horror films. And they directed episodes 3 and 4, which are you might not want to watch the show at night.
Sweet, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. So we'll have our fans check it out. We'll also do a review on our website of the show. Wonderful. That's very interesting. You put the sci-fi, the horror, as well as just documenting those phone calls and that list. Now you got me intrigued, and now I'm like, what's
well, paranormal activity. Supernatural paranormal activity. It's a thriller. It's the kind of thing, and I would say it's described as a slow burn. It's the kind of thing that you find yourself binging, but perhaps you should take it slow and digest what you're seeing. Let me put it that way.
I like that. So it's good for an early day binge, not towards the evening.
I mean, if you're scared like me, I don't watch at night.
Awesome. So after Archive 81, Toni, is there any other projects that are you working on that you could talk about with us today?
Well, I can't talk about the project that I'm on right now, but I can tell you about another project that came out right before. Here in New York, anybody that comes to visit New York, I was privileged to collaborate with British Nigerian director Jin Nkuru, who did a short film called Outside of Time at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And it's the first time that I've ever been able to design an experimental film. It's a short, but it was lovely. It was amazing. It's in a permanent exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art on Afrofuturism that is curated by production designer Hannah Beekler, who's famous for production for Black Panther. So it's amazing to see a room that is inspired by Seneca Village. If you're not familiar, Seneca Village was a neighborhood in Central Park in New York that existed from 1825 to about 1857. And it was 2/3 African American, as well as many other cultures. And they all lived, and they were free, and they owned homes, and there were churches, and they all worked and lived and farmed together until the land was taken from them to create Central Park. I put that in quotes, which means, you could take it for whatever you want. But, if it wasn't 2/3 African American, I'm sure the village would still be there today. And so it is. So in the exhibit, it's examining that world, but putting an Afrofuturistic spin on it. And it was amazing to design a film. And Jen, if you're not familiar with Jin Nkuru, she's an amazing visionary artist, filmmaker, visionary. So it was wonderful to work with her.
That is awesome. That's good to hear. Well, let us know when it comes out. We would love to check it out.
No, it's at the Met. It opened November 5th. It's at the Met. It's at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City.
Oh, inside the museum too.
Yeah.
Next trip, gotta go out there.
Yes. It's in a room called Afrofuturist Period Room. But the film is the one film that you'll see in the exhibit. There's Hannah Beekler designed a television that's like a 5-sided TV. So imagine a TV from like the 50s that stands and it's boxy, but it's on 5 sides. And this film, Jen envisioned called Outside of Time because you could imagine these people that were in Seneca Village, but in the 1850s or in 1930 or in present day or in the future. And that's kind of the world that she creates. And it's really, it's experimental and it's wonderful. And it was a new opportunity for me that I loved exploring and learning on.
That is awesome. You hit it right there, exploring and learning. That's something that where you gave a vision out there for something many people didn't know about. I didn't know about Seneca Village, and this is a really good thing to check out. So next time I'm in New York, I will make
Yes,
sure to check that out.
please do. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. And lastly, Toni, where can our fans find you on social media so they can keep in touch with your latest projects and more what you're doing with Archive 81?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my social media on Twitter and Instagram is Toni Barton NYC. I will say I'm probably not as active as I should be, but because I'm working. But that's the best way to reach me, on Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome. That's great to hear. We'll make sure to put that in the description as well, so our fans can make sure to give you a little follow and see what next you're doing.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Toni. Everybody out there, be sure to check out Archive 81 now on Netflix, guys.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate
No
it.
problem. No problem. This is Vic from Drop the Spotlight. We'll see you at the cons.